Welcome to the Bob Priest Show of Life podcast. I'm your host, Bob Priest. Thanks for tuning in today's show. This podcast is dedicated to individuals and professionals who desire to learn more about the subject of health and wellness, as well as alternative technologies to better health and vitality. Let's get started. Hello, welcome to the Bob Priest Show of Life. I'm your host, Bob Priest. Thanks for tuning in to today's show. My guest today is Byron Ford. Welcome, Byron. How are you today?
As a matter of fact, I'm doing absolutely fine, Bob. Thanks for asking.
Fantastic. Well, now listen, tell us just a little bit about who Byron is, and then we'll get into some question and answers on your story. But if you'll share with us, you're from what part of the country?
As a matter of fact, I'm from Lafayette, Louisiana.
Cool. And do you mind sharing with us what you do in Lafayette? Or if you tell me, you would have to send somebody after me afterwards.
Well, Bob, I am in the oil and gas industry. I'm a safety coordinator, and I have the opportunity to encounter numerous people of all walks, all facets of life, which is something that I truly enjoy because of the diversification and the opportunity to make positive deposits in the lives of those that come into my circumference. It's something that I'm very passionate about, very driven about, very much engaged in, and love and enjoy doing, Bob.
Well, that's awesome to hear. It's pretty powerful when you put yourself in a position where you want to help others and be a servant to others. I think says a lot about who you are as a person and your character. The other day when we were having a conversation, you had shared with me that you were going through some health challenges in the past, and you decided to make some changes. Do you mind sharing a little bit about your story of yourself and what maybe prompted you to go from where you were to where you presently are?
Yes, as a matter of fact, Bob, to be perfectly honest with you, I just got to a place in my life where I wanted to make some self-improvements. I wanted to see myself in a different light. Wanted to sort of reinvent myself, if I may, Bob. Was beginning to, feel sluggish, not necessarily my vibrant, energetic self that I so truly enjoy being. Not feeling like I was actually giving the world the best of me, Bob. And I began to realize that certain foods were making me feel sluggish. I was looking in the mirror and seeing my clothing was not fitting me the way that I like to project myself. And I just, came to the revelation that, this is doable. I can change this if it's not something that I am 100% comfortable and content with. So I started taking some incremental steps, if I may, to trying to improve the quality of my life, namely in the area of weight loss, Bob. I initially started out at 285 pounds and wound up getting down to 185. So it was a tremendous amount of weight loss. Initially, it transpired so fast. It was a little alarming, a little concerning based on image. However, as I kind of got a balance with it, it started to shape and form and look a little more appealing to me, something that I found was comfortable in my sight, felt great, energy level was different, attitude, just spirituality, everything just started culminating, and I started getting a more holistic feel about myself, mind, body, and soul. Just everything started jiving. And I didn't think that it was something that was impossible. For some reason, on the onset, I believed in it, Bob. I pursued it. By the grace of God, had success in results, uh, and just feel amazing today, Bob.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So did you pick out a diet, or did you just find something that you felt like there was things that you were doing, whether food you were eating, things you drank, whatever, that were creating this problem? Or did you actually hone in on a certain diet?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because for some reason that word diet never really resonated well with me. I never liked that word for some reason. I'd heard stories regarding diet about the fact that once you get on one, you may have some favorable results, but you wound up increasing in weight gain that surpasses the amount you lost. So that for me was not something that I wanted to experiment with. So what I elected to do instead, I'm a big sweets eater, Bob. Love them, love them, love them. Beyond measure. I love them that much. However, I decided to refrain from eating them. I started eating salads on a regular basis, fish and chicken and shrimp were my three food group choices that I elected to use as something that I implemented in my system. Um, Drink a lot of water, several bottles of water on a daily basis. Refrain from sodas, Bob. And just those things that were contrary to the direction that I was going, I no longer had a desire to partake in.
Well, that sounds great. So interesting that because we've talked about this a little bit, that this diet, it's like hundreds of diets out there in the world today, but not one size fits all, does it?
That is absolutely correct.
So would you agree with this statement that what's healthy for one person might not be healthy for you?
Absolutely, Bob. I believe that we're all uniquely and individually built by design. So my system may not necessarily have the same kind of reaction to a particular food choice as another individual. So what I find works best is doing what is in the best interest of self based on you being able to pay attention to your body and its response to what it is that you have consumed.
So did you find yourself kind of paying more attention to your body? So if you put a certain protein in your body, did you kind of wait to see how that reacted and then go, oh, my body feels good, I have the energy I need, or I don't feel so good after eating this, so that's something that I need to put in my brain that maybe I better not eat next time around?
Absolutely, Bob. As a matter of fact, I acquired a propensity for certain fruit. And I like that better when I have those in opposed to when I had a candy bar or when I had a cupcake or when I had a honey bun. Things that were so, just not within the program, Bob. Just, didn't have any appeal no longer to me. I just did away with those choices altogether.
So did you pretty much wipe out all processed type of foods?
Initially, I was able to accomplish a vast majority of it.
Okay. All right. Well, that's great. It's interesting. You and I've had some dialogue about diets and things like that. And for our audience, they don't know necessarily, but I'm 66. Byron's younger than me. He's a good looking young man. But our diets change as we change, as we change in age, maybe even as we change in the way our physical body changes. So did you find that your diet has changed now in a good way since you've gone through this process and have lost all this weight?
Well, one of the things that I can attest to that it has done for me, it's given me a certain degree of consciousness where initially I would consume as I pleased. and didn't give a whole lot of forethought to whether or not it would have an adverse effect. Where now, when I look at a particular food, I contemplate whether or not this is something that I want to revisit, and am I willing to experience the repercussions that this potentially could have as a result of my consumption?
Well, that makes a lot of sense. So, as a man, do you have you found along the way any particular challenges that you had to deal with? Like for example, I grew up, and you're in the South, I'm in the South. I grew up meat and potatoes was what we ate. You know, meat, potatoes, macaroni and cheese, mashed potatoes, whatever. Do you find that was tough because maybe your upbringing, like mine, was those types of foods?
Bob, that is so fascinating that you would have elected to use that as a subject matter. As a matter of fact, I have a mother and father, and I would have to almost say that they are expert in the kitchen with the pots. So, I mean, man, it's like every time I go there, the aroma of the foods that they're cooking is almost unbearable. However, I know that they like a lot of pork content, and I know that those foods, particularly, are not very healthy food choices because I've seen how my body has responded to those in the past. So that is one of my biggest crises is going to mom's house and having to contend with whether or not to engage or not engage myself in eating from that pot.
So before you go, you've got to call mom and say, now, this is what you need to make for me, and this is what I can't eat. She's probably not going to listen to that because
That's a fact.
she wants her son to have a good meal.
That is a fact. That is an area I wouldn't even embark on. I wouldn't even propose to mom to get her to try to alter her diet when it comes down to the pot. Although I wish I had that degree of influence on her, Bob.
Yeah, my parents no longer are living, but I mean, if I could go back on a Sunday afternoon and have my mom's fried chicken and mashed potatoes and vegetables,
Right.
I'd be a happy boy,
Right. I get it. I get it.
Um, so let's change gears a little bit because first of all, I want to tell you, Byron, I'm really proud of you for kind of seeing the situation that you were in and having the habit changing willpower to go through a process to get you down to where you are today. And you've started finding your happy place and your balance, the types of foods you can eat and need to stay away from for whatever reasons, either they're not reacting in your body in a positive way. But what do you think some of the other top challenges for people in our age group that we need to be aware of, whether it's in a health area or just in life in general?
Okay. I can gateway into that relatively well because one of the things that I've had to do is incorporate a physical regimen as well. I've been able to manage getting inside of the gym and doing some physical activity as well. One of the things that really contributed to my weight loss, I think immensely, was the fact that I did cardio. And I found that cardio was so good, not only for the heart, but for the physical construct as well. So, one of the things I know is difficult, especially here in the South, is we're not very inclined to the physical component as much as we are to the good home Southern cooking, having festivities that involve good food, good cuisine. So I think that one of the things that uh, would be a good thing to try to incorporate is the physical component. And I know that's a challenge sometimes for men because we work hard. So we feel like, okay, I've given a whole day's work to a job. Sometimes it's a physical uh, job that entails vigor and labor. So depletion is probably something that's resting on them by the end of the day. However, I've had to persevere past those barriers as well and said, you know what? This is an investment in myself. So why not elect to do that if it's going to enhance me and make me better and perhaps even sustain me life for a little longer?
That's a really good point because, men do work hard, especially if they're in the fields that require physical labor. They're not sitting behind a desk all day, but even the guys that sit behind a desk or behind a computer are mentally fatigued. And that's what usually they equate to their tiredness to. It's not that they're they haven't been out in the hot sun all day or whatever, but it's still a fatigue factor. And I have found that when I get into the gym, like if I'm tired that day and I think I'll blow this off today, I still am tired. I'm still going to stay tired the rest of the day. But if I go into the gym, usually it changes everything. And all of a sudden I have the energy level that I need to go several hours more, so I could do more things. So what have you learned about yourself during this walk, Byron?
Well, one of the things that I've learned particularly is that I had more willpower than I thought I was in possession of. I've noticed that when you take the realm um, and just say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead on and do what I need to do to make the necessary adjustments to achieve the outcome that I'm in search of, it's possible. Oftentimes, we've heard so many people speak contrary to that, some in our lives, some in our immediate circumference. Sometimes when you share your vision or your passion or your aspirations with others, I like to classify them as perhaps sometimes dream busters, where they think about all the things that could not possibly happen as a result of the things that you're telling them could happen. So I've seen that in being able to, do some internal search, some self evaluation. I've been able to glean from within the necessary wherewithal to be able to accomplish some of those things that may have initially seemed insurmountable. So
That's Go ahead. I'm sorry.
self will, self will, and self determination has been some of the things that I've seen to work favorably for me as a result of my embarking on this newfound interest in health, well being, and just a better quality of life.
That's awesome, man. I agree with you in that thought process. Did you, along the way, start reading any books that maybe helped you to grow in those areas so that you would have more mental strength so you could endure some of the down times, like the cravings and things of that nature?
Well, to be honest with you, Bob, I'm a very avid listener of motivational speech, positive uh, podcast, um, spiritual empowerment. Um, I daily choose to audio something that could contribute to my mental, something that could be a stimulus that would keep me grounded, something that would keep me rooted. I also read um, things that I find could be contributing factors to my um, self enhancement, if I may, things that could, you know, just self help,
Yeah.
I guess, to categorize it.
Yeah.
It has been something I've deemed to be valuable.
So is there an author or a book that you've most recently been listening to or reading through, or a podcast that you could share with our audience that may be something they want to turn to and look into down the road?
Well, to be perfectly honest, there's such a broad band um, that I listen to until I don't necessarily have a particular one that I would recommend. However, um, I like them to be based on substance. And when it especially is relating my spiritual development. Um, I want them to be biblically astute. I would definitely want it to be something that um, has merit. So I just try to use my own personal assessment prior to who I choose to engage at a specific time. And I kind of let my spirit be my guide.
There you go. Well, I think that's a good attitude to have too, because you know there there's thousands and thousands of self-help books from various angles, and of course, part of the I think part of that for us is that we have to make sure that they fit into our sphere of what our pillars are, our kind of non-negotiable areas in our lives, and so being very discerning in that respect is important. Um, so you found yourself in this position that you needed to lose weight, you wanted to lose weight, you did lose weight. Now you're at another point in your life where you're putting all those other elements into it. So when we talk about the word nourishment, and you've learned to nourish your body through food in a different way, what are some other nourishing comments that you can make? What other things do we need to nourish to have the balance in our full life?
You pose a excellent question, Bob. One that has a lot of profundity associated with it. And I don't want to be slight in giving reference to it. Mind, body, and soul is one of the things that I strongly suggest when it comes down to having a holistic approach. Uh, we have several components to our being, and I think that nourishment has a broad base attached to it. I think that facets of our lives need to be contributed to in order for us to evolve into the beings or into the individuals that we are capable of becoming, especially if you are living a purpose driven life, Bob. I would like to say that one of the things that I pride myself on is I want to try to live a purpose driven life. Every day I look for an opportunity to make a contribution into the life of humanity. So things that will nourish my mind and allow me to be an asset in the lives of others, whether it be the downtrodden, whether it be the despondent, whether it be the left behind, whatever facet of life that I may encounter, I want to be able to have some relatability to that, Bob. I want to live a life of fluidity. I want to be able to contribute in a way that has flow, and it infuses the lives of others in a positive and productive and fruitful way.
That is awesome insight on your part, Byron. Um, so I was talking to a gentleman the other day on a podcast, and he said his four truths were the following things: control of your mind, embrace the pain and difficulty, what you leave behind is what's important, and last but not least is never quit. And when you take what you're talking about there and you put those in the same kind of context, it's all about controlling what we think, controlling who we spend our quality time with. When we go through difficult times, whether it's the weight loss situation or medical illnesses or loss in life or whatever, we embrace the pain and the difficulty and learn how to get through those. Would you agree with that?
Bob, you summated it so well, Bob, because sometimes what we have a tendency to do is we make things that occur in our lives appear to be an isolated incident, in opposed to it working out for the betterment and the good of us in a holistic way. I strongly believe in those truths that were just spoken in regards to, Bob, that has so much merit. And I think that that individual that interjected that came from a deep place of self-realization. Because in order for you to be able to express something of that magnitude and have that level of receptivity, it had to have had a bearing on you individually. So I commend that gentleman for those four truths. I absolutely concur with him.
I did too. And, you said something a little bit earlier about a purpose-driven life. And that's been kind of my mantra throughout my life. And when I was a teacher, one of the comments that I made pretty much on a daily basis to my students was, what type of legacy are you going to leave behind when you graduate from this institution as a senior? What do the other kids that come in have to look forward to because you left something of positive result that they can grab a hold of and then continue to grow from? And I see that for us adults too, that no matter where we are in our lot in life, what's the positive legacy that we are leaving behind when we're no longer on this earth and we have moved into a different place? And so as we finish up today, Byron, I'd like for you to share with our listeners what you would like your legacy to be when you no longer are here on this earth.
I would like my legacy to speak well of my contribution to humanity. I would like to be dubbed as a servant leader, somebody that gave service in the lives of those that may have not had the level of support, the level of love, the level of comfort, the level of understanding that humanity should have rendered them. I want to be able to leave an impression here in the earth that said this was an individual that was indiscriminate of all humankind. But everywhere that his feet tread, he tried to leave a mark that spoke well of his Father, which is Jesus Christ, whom is in heaven. So that's one of the things that I would like to leave here in the earth. It's the imprint that he tried to replicate Christ-like characteristics in a way that was lasting and just had an indelible imprint on society.
Man, that was well said. That's a great way to sum up our time today on this podcast. Byron, you are exactly who I thought you were when we met, and I enjoyed hearing a little bit about your story and some of the struggles and challenges, but also who you learned, how you learned about yourself in a more in-depth way, and also how it's helped you to become a stronger human being in many different areas of your life, not just your health and physical area. So I really thank you for being a part of my podcast. If someone wanted to reach out to you and just have further conversation, is there any place they could reach out to you, or would you just prefer that they reach out to me and then I can just give that over to you? Do you have an email that you would like to give us or anything of that nature?
Well, the latter works fine for me, Bob. The fact that you would be a great liaison, because I know that you would definitely make the necessary connections if you deemed it necessary and appropriate. And by all means, if it's anything that I can do, again, I'm a servant. So if it's anything that I could do to further the betterment of society or individuals, individually or collectively, I'm here for that mission.
Well, that's awesome, Byron. We really thank you for being a guest today. I want to thank our guests for tuning in today and listening to Byron's story. If you would like to learn more about me and my mission to educate the public about integrative medicine and other alternative healing modalities, go to www.bobpriest.life. That's BOBPRIEST.life, LIFE. And while there, read a blog or two, and of course, check out other podcasts that I have on my website. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today, and we'll look forward to talking to you again next week. Hey everyone, thanks again for checking into today's episode. If you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, Apple, leave me a 5-star rating if you so choose, and if you enjoyed the show. I'm so grateful that you're spending some time with us and listening to our podcast. If you need to get in touch with me to learn more about my passion to inform and educate about alternative methods and modalities of healing, you can go to www.bobpriest.life. That's BOBPRIEST.life. While there, check out a blog or two and listen to other podcast sessions that I've had in the past. Guys, have a great day, and thank you so much for joining in.